Well, hey there. Welcome to Blair and Barker on a Wednesday. A rainy Wednesday. Rainy
I got soaked.
Yeah, you got soaked.
I did.
I timed it right.
Did you?
I came in, not a drop. Not a drop when I walked in.
Veteran.
You got soaked. Your shoes are squeaking. I could hear you come down the hallway.
I called my wife, told her I got soaked. She laughed at me. She horse laughed at me for like 3 minutes. She did.
I don't know. 4-3, the Blue Jays losing to the San Francisco Giants last night. Barker's Blue Jays doing it again on a wild pitch from Trevor Richards.
When I was watching Trevor Richards throw, the only thing I could think of is you sitting somewhere wherever you were sitting thinking to yourself, boy, good thing they paid all that money to Chad Green to get them couple of days off after those 49 pitches he threw back-to-back days. That's what you were thinking?
Well, the thought did cross my mind.
I know you.
That they're paying him.
That's what you were thinking.
Listen, I understand that. I understand that 50 pitches over 2 days is not easy. I get that, but you did have an off day. I mean, what do I know? It doesn't surprise me because again, it appears as if there's no urgency with this bullpen. I mean, where are we now without Romano and Kikuchi available? Are we into Romano and Garcia available? Are we into a month yet? Are we there? So I mean, nothing surprising me.
I mean, to be fair, Trevor Richards has been good. I mean, it's just
no. Listen, I would have played
very
it.
predictable.
I would have played it that way if with Chad Green not being available. I just wonder about giving a dude all this money if I can't use him.
Well, let's be fair. I mean, he had an up down. He threw 49 pitches. He did it with a big time heart rate in Seattle. He's been hurt a bazillion times.
I guess
they're 8 under, Jeff. I gave you 4 reasons right there.
9 under.
They were 8 under when he wasn't pitching in the 9th inning.
Oh,
so
anyhow,
there's your 4 reasons.
The Jays also got 3 hits, including a 3-run home run. I should mention that, a 3-run home run from Ernie Clement.
Yeah.
You say Kikuchi was awfully good, but I mean, again, last night. And a little bit of bad luck, the ball, seeing eye single. I mean, stuff that happens to you when you're not a very good team, basically.
That's fair.
And right now the Jays aren't a very good team.
Yeah.
The good news is they get to do it again tonight.
Mm-hmm. Logan Webb, go get him.
Yeah, stay hot.
Yeah.
And an even better news is that Dan Shulman will have the call of the game.
I'm excited to hear it.
And he joins us on Blair and Barker. Hello, Dan.
Gentlemen, how are you? You are in fine form today. It sounds like.
We're in good form.
Yeah.
Let's before we deal with the Blue Jays. How you gonna handle this Blue Jays game? And then you got the Canadian men's Olympic team, because I know you're about to leave. You're about to leave for France in the Olympics, and it's pretty big. I'm using air quotes here. Exhibition game between Canada and the U.S. tonight in Vegas.
Yeah. No, my attention will be solely focused on the baseball game. I can promise you that. I am recording the game at home, so I'll be able to watch it tomorrow morning when I wake up on my computer if I can figure out the technology. But it is exciting. I mean, for a lot of people, nobody ever thought a day like this would come. They released the final 12-man roster today, which I imagine you guys saw.
Yep.
And it's just about everything you could hope for. It really is. So I'm not so concerned about the score against the U.S. I think both coaches will be, working on rotations and, play small, play big, that sort of thing. I don't think it matters if they win by 10 or lose by 20. I think it's about seeing how certain guys play together. But, you're rolling out a team that's got 11 guys who played in the NBA. I think 10 of them play in the NBA now, and it's pretty exciting. And I can't wait to get over to France and do the games. And this is a bucket list thing for me. But hopefully both the men and the women's teams put on a good show, because it's got a chance to be a very exciting couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's dig into the Blue Jays a little bit. Dan, what does Spencer Horwitz have to do to play every day? Every day.
Become a switch hitter.
Jinx! As a kid, say jinx. We both thought it at the same time.
I hate it when you agree with Jeff. I hate that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know he was going to agree with me. I would have changed my answer. I think that day is coming. I do. And I know you guys have talked about this. I mean, the next time we speak, if it's in August, this is going to be a much different looking roster, right?
Yeah.
There are going to be spots that are open. Let's make the fairly safe assumption that Justin Turner's on another team by the deadline, and that opens it up, right? Because then Vladdy and Horwitz going to be a first base DH, back and forth, and obviously you can put Horwitz at second. But I would imagine, if it's me, once the deadline happens, it's all about let's see what we've got for next year, so we know what we need to do in the winter. And I would have Horwitz hitting against lefties pretty near the top of the list of things that I would want to see. I'd also want to see him in the field every single day just to see, he's been fine. Will it continue to be fine? Because fine defensively and really good offensively, that's a heck of a major league player, especially if he's making major league minimum. So, but I don't think it'll change, Kevin, in the next couple of weeks, but I think it'll change in August.
Dad, he's like a gnat with plate coverage. Like I just don't, I just don't. Sometimes it's, the khakis got to get out of the way a little. Every once in a while, a kid just earned it. Like the at-bats that he has, no matter which way the guy's throwing it, it's just they're better. He's got better than everybody else's at bats. That's the only sort of thing that every once in a while you're 9 out. Like you're 9 under 500. You're a bazillion out of the American League East. I mean, you got no chance of getting that thing. You probably got no chance because all the teams in front of you with the wild card. I get what you're saying, and that's probably going to happen because you're pretty in tune with everything that's going on there. But man, alive, occasionally it's just you'd like to hear somebody come out and go, "Dude's earned it." Like those at bats are legit.
Yep.
Just let him run him out there.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the Framber Valdez at bat, and Josh Hader at bat. Like he took a slider from Hader that I think 98% of big league left-handed batters would have swung and missed at, and he took it. He's got that ability to recognize pitch and location very, very early. And I talked to him about hitting lefties, because if you look at his AAA numbers against lefties, he hits for average, he gets on base, but there's very little slug. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, "Is that you?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's kind of me." Like against lefties, he's not thinking do damage, really. He's thinking do what I can with it, which can be line the ball to left for a base hit. And that's great. I think he hit 300 against lefties at AAA this year. So I think he's a very smart hitter because sometimes he's let me do what I can with it and line the ball to left. But if it's a righty in there and a certain type of pitcher or a guy who likes a certain location or he throws the ball in a certain place, he'll be, hey, I'm going to attack on the first pitch, or I'm going to try to pull the ball and hit it over the fence. Like he's almost like 3 or 4 different hitters in one. He's got that ability to change his game based on what he thinks the pitcher is trying to do to him.
Dan, have we seen Dalton miss enough fastballs at the top of the zone to come to the realization that this is who Dalton is? I think it was Hazel that came out with the report that he had told her that he was a little too narrow. He wants to use his legs a little bit more. It's like Groundhog Day. Mm-hmm. Like, every time he's been on this show, he said the exact same thing, right? Now it's that 60-40 where 60% of his weight's on his backside than it is on his front side, right? That gets him swinging up a little bit more. That's why you see everybody starting to throw him all fastballs. I think there's a checklist with a bunch of these guys, and I think for me, Dan, this is just me. Offensively, I think he's at the end of the checklist. Like, there is no other tinkering or – it's just sort of this is what we're seeing from Dalton. Run him out there, put him in the 8-hole, let him play the defense that we all know and love to watch him play. Am I on to something or am I off base here and he can get better?
No, I think he can be a little bit – I mean, he hit 235 a couple of years ago, but pitching in general is better and smarter than it was 2 years ago. I think pitching is really smart right now. Like pitchers know exactly what they want to do every single time. And how many fastballs up and away or change-ups away have we seen to Dalton Varsho, right? Like if you try to throw him, in my opinion, a change-up down or a down and in slider, like that's just silly, right? So I think the issue for Dalton is, unfortunately for him, is, there's some guys where you say, that's the hot zone, that's the cold zone, but it can change. It's not, this is a little hot, that's a little cold. Like for Varsho, it's very red or very blue, right? And they're throwing the balls in the very blue area right now. So, I mean, I'd love to see him be able to get to those pitches up at the belt or a little bit above, a little bit better, because he doesn't have to hit 280, but if he can hit 240, he's a heck of a player, right? And even now, and I think he's right around 200. I don't know exactly. But like you said, put him out there in the 7 or the 8 spot and let him be the best outfielder in baseball and let him be one of the best base runners in baseball. But if you have that in your lineup, and the Blue Jays have more than one guy like that in their lineup, you need other guys who get on base more. Like Varsho will slug, right? The extra base hits are there, but obviously not on base as much as you'd like to see. So you need other guys who get on base a lot. And that to me is another reason why Spencer Horwitz is so important, because he's very, very different from everybody else they have on their team. And I don't know if he can sustain a 450 on base, but if he can be a 380, 390 guy, I mean, that's huge for them. So, but I pulled for Dalton Varsho like crazy, because as you guys know, he's as good as a dude as you'll ever walk into a clubhouse and talk to, right? And nobody cares more, nobody wants it more, nobody tries harder. So I hope he can close up a couple of the holes and get a go.
Dan, absolutely, he's the future center fielder, right? That's not in question. Like, he will be a part of this team going forward.
Yes. In my mind, yes. I think you put him in center because, he can really play the position. Like, it's funny. He may not look like a center fielder. You know what I mean? Like,
Fire plug.
He kind of looks. That's right. He kind of looks like a fullback at a small college. You know what I mean? Like, he's, but he doesn't look the part, but damn, can he play the part? Right. So 100%, I put him in center field. And then if left field is open, you've maybe got a couple of internal options, but it's easier to go out and find a left fielder.
Absolutely.
And you want your premium D in center, go get some offense for left or figure out left. But then something you will need is a backup center fielder, right, for next year. So I don't know if that's George Springer. I don't know if that's Stuart Baroa. I don't know. But you're definitely going to need somebody else in case he gets hurt or you want to sit him against a lefty or something. So I would imagine there would be a switch hitting or right-hand hitting kind of utility outfielder, for lack of a better terms, on this team next year.
Dan, we all know that this team has a pretty significant shopping list for this year and for next year. How do you think John Schneider, never mind John Schneider, but just the Jays in general, go about putting together this bullpen? Right? Like, I think the rest of the year, hopefully Jimmy Garcia comes back and is healthy enough, frankly, that you can trade him. Hopefully you can end the year getting a sense of where Jordan Romano is. I don't know, maybe he comes back in September, something like that. But, I mean, there's a lot of heavy lifting that's going to have to be done going ahead for this bullpen. Do you think maybe that's a point of emphasis this year at the trade deadline? If they traded Danny Jansen, maybe they get a controllable bullpen arm in, or how would you think they would approach it?
I think that's possible. I mean, they got a lot of holes to fill, right? And to me, the offense is 1 and the bullpen is 2. And if they trade Kikuchi, then the rotation comes into play. If they really get big and trade like Bassett or Gausman as well, and I don't think they will, then the rotation becomes a huge priority, obviously. But I agree with you. So you need 8 relievers, right? Let's assume Cabrera and Little are the 2 guys from the left side. They're doing fine. So scratch them off the list. Let's assume Romano is back. Let's assume Pearson is on the team. So that's 4. One that really interests me is Chad Green, because Chad Green has another year on his contract. So if the Blue Jays are saying, we're going to retool and try to be competitive next year, you want Chad Green on your team. But if you're a contending team, who wouldn't want Chad Green on their team this year, right? Absolutely. I mean, Chad Green is exactly the kind of guy that a really good team with a good bullpen would say, well, he's not going to be our closer, but boy, would he be a great second or third option in our bullpen. And he could close if we needed it. He can get 4 outs if we need it. So to me, a big question is, do they trade Chad Green? Because they're definitely going to be getting phone calls. I assume Jimmy Garcia will be gone. I assume Trevor Richards will be gone and won't be part of this team. So I think they need like 3 guys, which means they need like 6 guys, right? Because you always need more than you have. I am hoping Eric Swanson resurfaces after the deadline. I think the last 2 or 3 were good, and we shouldn't just run away from the fact that he was a good pitcher for 3 years and was a really good pitcher for the Blue Jays last year. I'd like to see Eric Swanson get another opportunity. I think they'll keep trying to work with Zach Pop to try to unlock the stuff that is there and see what he does. And then it's got to be one or two from the farm system, and they're going to have to sign or trade for one or two. But I like your idea of getting a young, controllable reliever. There are teams that have a lot of pitching, and what if you and again, who knows if they trade Chad Green? But what if you traded Chad Green for a really good, upside, young, hard-throwing guy who's maybe not quite ready to help you win in the 8th inning of the playoffs now, but if you're a contender, you'll take Chad Green to help you do that. So I think something like that could happen. The good news is if you have to fix one part of a team, theoretically, the bullpen is the easiest thing to fix, the cheapest thing, the easiest to acquire. The offense is another story, right? They're going to have some big holes to figure out offensively, and that's why whether it's Horwitz, Schneider, Barger, unfortunately, it's not Arelis Martinez. I'm a Nathan Lucas fan. I know he's 29 years old, but I'd like to see if he can be a part of the puzzle. But again, they got a lot of guys who can probably be a part of the puzzle, but they need a couple of dudes,
Amen.
to hit hit somewhere in the top of the order to help Vladdy out.
Yeah, see, I'm with you in that, and I think that realistically, I'm with you. Let's just assume that Bo and Vladdy are off the table in a trade. I think you're right. I think they're probably leaning towards bringing back their starting pitchers. So it seems to me that there isn't, other than Kikuchi, I don't think there's anybody who's going to bring you a middle-of-the-order hitter who is going to be ready to go in the majors next year. I think you've got to do that heavy lifting in the offseason, and then maybe you look at moving one of those pitchers because, maybe you have a better read in Manoah. There are free agent pitchers out there that you can get.
Rodriguez is good enough.
Rodriguez is good enough, exactly. So I think that's where I think you'll see this organization go. The heavy lifting, to me, has got to be done. And I'm a bigger fan of that. I don't know about you, Dan, but unless there is massive immediate payroll pressure, which I don't think there is, I'm a bigger fan of doing my heavy lifting in the offseason. I just am.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think a lot of the guys that they're going to get back in the next couple of weeks, most of them might be guys that we've never heard of because they're in the minors still. So maybe some would be ready to contribute next year. But I agree with you. I think the heavy lifting most of it has to come in the winter, and that's why August, September is crucial to see what they have. We haven't said Ricky Tiedemann's name. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he can come up, and hopefully he can be effective and maybe answer a question or two. But if you think about the everyday lineup, so let's assume they don't trade Vladdy or Bo. You got those two, and Horwitz makes 3, and Springer makes 4. IKF makes 5. You've got maybe Varsho makes 6. So you got 6 pretty much regular guys. You've got one of your 2 catchers in Kirk, but he needs help. So you've got 6.5 out of 9. You need 2.5 spots. You need another catcher. And then you got to figure out, Schneider and Clement, I think, are a part of this, but I don't think they're 600, 500-600 at bat guys. So, you've got a couple of complementary players, but, pick the spot, whether it's going to be left field's probably the spot, right? You need a dude to play left field, and then you need another infielder, and you need a catcher. So you probably got to go out and through trade or free agency get 3 guys who are really going to help you next year.
Yep. Speaking of infielders, first impressions of Leo Jimenez is what for you?
Poised, good at bats. Like and I know we've seen like 8 or whatever, but, a couple of hits, and one of them was on a pretty good changeup, and he just kind of got the end of the bat to and flicked it into center. He's taken 2 walks, which is good. I thought he gave a good effort on that ground ball last night. Unfortunately, it popped in and out of his glove, and he, couldn't keep it in the infield, and he was playing where he was playing, right? He was playing where he was told to play. So, I don't know enough about him defensively to make a big judgment. I know what I've heard, which is he's really good. Like as he came up through the minors, it was always the defense is really good. We'll see if the bat can play. So I think again he's got a chance to be a part of this. I don't know that next year he's a 600 at bat guy, but he's another guy. Like if it's August, you want to see him in there as much as you can, and he's getting a chance to play against lefties right now, and where he plays, I don't know how much of it is going to open up. I mean, maybe IKF's going to come back, right? So he's going to play a lot, and he deserves to play a lot, given the way that he's played. So if he's at third and Bo's at short, then you kind of got Jimenez and maybe Schneider and maybe Horwitz fighting it out at second base. And that's why I think maybe Horwitz, if Turner's gone, Horwitz can just go do a first base DH thing with Vladdy, and Schneider can play second or left, and Leo can get in there a little bit at second base. I'd like to see more of him. Again, I think he can be a part of this. They've got a lot of guys who I think can be a part of it, but I think, like I said before, for next year they're going to need a couple of dudes. Maybe Barger comes back. Who knows what a Relvis turns into? They've got a lot of guys to hope on, but we're going to have a lot more information 2-3 months from now than we have now.
Yep.
Danny, really good of you to do this. Thanks so much. If we don't chat before the Olympics, have a
great time.
Have a great time. Safe travels, and I'll look forward to your call of the men's basketball. Thanks, my friend.
I appreciate that, guys. Be well. I'll talk to you soon.
See you,
Absolutely.
buddy.
That is Dan Shulman, voice of the Blue Jays. 9:45 tonight, game 2 of this series. Tim Meza. So shows you what we know. Because we basically said when Tim Meza was released that, hopefully he'll go to the National League because he's been seen a lot in the American League, and everybody likes Tim Meza, but it's just, you're just seeing him too much in the American. Go to Milwaukee or someplace where you can, and of course Tim Meza has been signed to a minor league contract by the New York Yankees, so shows you what we know. Yeah,
I mean, there's some teams that the Yankees would have to play who have lefties that might. Tim Meza might be good against, and again, it might be change of scenery. The pitching staff for the Yankees has been atrocious for about a good month span here. So, it's like you said, right? Why is the Jays not doing this? I guess good for the Yankees that they see a veteran guy that they can get for basically nothing. I mean, what do they got to lose, right? They bring him in, they give him a minor league deal. You get a change of scenery, you get a different voice. Maybe the sinker's moving a little bit more. Maybe it's sinking instead of cutting or, two-seaming or whatever that thing was doing when it wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. So, yeah, good for him. He's a great dude. Hopefully goes over there and does exactly what they want him to do. I root for him.
Yeah, and, hopefully.
But good luck because his stuff has not been real good for quite some time now. So, going to be a little tougher, too, throwing that in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see, if he has, as bad as he's been this year, does he have, I'm looking at the Orioles, 0-for-6 against him. Again, this is just this year, but this is, if you're the Yankees, teams are thinking this way now.
Absolutely.
Bring a guy in that we can,
Pockets.
maybe he helps us for one game.
Yankees got 2 sets of khakis. They're doing pockets.
I'm just looking at his numbers against the Orioles are good.
Red Sox got some guys in there. Red Sox got the best record in baseball
he does
last month.
Fare well against the Red Sox. He's okay against the Guardians.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing anybody
I'm
else.
not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's what they're hoping might happen, right? And you get him for nothing, and you maybe change something up, maybe give him a different thing to work on. Maybe it'll work for him.
He's had a decent amount of success against Tampa Bay, so. And that's again, that's the way teams think right now.
Don't make
when they look to bring a guy in. Does he have a specific skill set that matches up well with the specific team?
Say he was in that pen. He's not the one guy that's going to come in and always get the best left-handed hitter out. That's what he doesn't have to do, which is what the Blue Jays were asking him to do for a while.
He might be the guy to get a certain member of the Baltimore Orioles out at a certain time.
There you go. So. That's why I think that's what they're praying and hoping for. And if they don't get it, it didn't cost them anything to bring him in there anyway.
Yeah.
Old college try.
Yeah, why not?
Nothing wrong with that. At least they're trying.
Yeah, and you're right. They're in a horrible way right now.
Yeah. They still lead baseball, I think, in runs scored, so it's not like they ain't scoring a few runs.
Their ERA is
they're giving up a lot.
Their ERA is the only team whose ERA is worse is their ERA in the past couple of weeks is bottom of the league. Just near the Blue Jays.
Huh.
So they've got some issues, and we all thought, I guess, when Garrett Cole came back, that everything would balance itself out. But
it's a little easier to hit bumps in the roads when you're that high above 500. You're in second place, and
that's why there's no such thing. That's why there's no such thing as a part of the schedule that doesn't matter. It matters. You win 10 in a row in April. at some point in August or September, you're going to go back and go, wow, thank God we won 10
It's
in a row.
hard because of the balanced schedule. Now, if you fall behind like the Jays have, to make up ground that way, because you ain't playing the teams in the American League East as much. So basically, you know when to punt. Makes punting easier.
Pete Walker is the pitching coach of the Toronto Blue Jays, one of our favorites. He joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. Barker, you okay?
No.
Do you have a
I
hair
got
ball
caught
or
in the
something?
rain, dude.
Man, you guys, you just missed one of the worst coughing attacks.
Typical you two. Instead of you being my good friend worrying about me, you're looking at me like I'm the weirdest person on earth.
Well, it
And
just came
let's
out of
hurry
nowhere.
up. We're about to go on the air.
I'm there for you.
Yeah,
you
I
know
know
that.
you are.
I'm right behind you. Hunter Pence joins us at the top of the hour. He's a commentator in NBC Sports Bay Area. We'll take a deeper look at the San Francisco Giants. Jeff Passan joins us at 5:30. Right now, we're very pleased, though, to be joined by the pitching coach of the Toronto Blue Jays, Pete Walker. Pete, hello, and thank you for joining us today. I haven't talked to you for a while, so I'm just going to ask you, how you holding up, man? I mean, it's been a long year, and there's a lot of heavy lifting going on. How you holding up?
Yeah, I'm holding up. Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Always nice to talk to you guys. It's been a grind for sure for everybody, right? And last night was a really tough one. But we got to bounce back today. Still have an opportunity to win a series here. I feel like we had a really good series in Seattle and came into last night with good energy and had a chance to put that one away, and we just couldn't do it. So, it's a tough loss. It's been a tough season, but we still have time before the break to kind of get a little bit of momentum here, and hopefully we can do it here in San Francisco.
Hey, Pete, when you see Yusei Kikuchi have the type of game he had last night, a career-high 13 strikeouts, what is working especially well for him when he has that type of game?
Man, he was exceptional last night. I know if you stayed up and watched it, he was exceptional, and
he was something else.
Really,
awesome.
He was something else. I mean, he's had a few outings like that where you see bits and pieces of it, and but getting into the eighth inning last night, striking out 13, dominating with his fastball, utilizing his secondary stuff, his changeup. That was probably the best stuff in command he's had all year. Good mix and just attacked better than I've seen him attack in a long time. So. Really, really happy for him where he's at right now. He's had a really fine season. Had a little bit of a blip there in June, I guess, but he still was throwing the ball well. He's maintained his stuff really all year, and he's really coming into his own for sure.
Okay, speaking of stuff, Yariel Rodriguez, the last couple of starts have been off the charts, and I would assume it starts with fastball command. Every time we have John on, he sort of starts with that. When he's got that sort of pitch work and everything else falls in place. Now, don't give me trade secrets. And I have to ask because it's it went from sort of falling off a cliff to this Yariel. Is there something mechanically that you've changed? Is there a pitch mix? Is there a different way he's gripping the ball? Throw us a bone a little bit about sort of the graduation effect here with Yariel the last couple of games.
Well, he's certainly shown this, at different times. Obviously, he had a couple of injuries. I've seen enough side sessions in my career to know when someone has good stuff and has ability for sure, and he certainly does. But when he's locating that fastball, it's got a special cut to it. You can almost call it a cutter at times. It's 93 to 96, and it's actually has cut action. He can also sink the ball. So he's got two fastballs, and if he locates them, if he gets them in the box consistently, he is going to be a force because his secondary stuff, he's got creativity as a pitcher, what I call pitchability. He's got he's got the ability to kind of miss some bats and get guys off balance with his different arm angles, and also the different speeds that he throws up there between the split and the curveball and the slider. So he's got a lot of weapons. He's been a lot of fun. It's too bad that he had a couple of little mini injuries there that kind of set him back, but I have a feeling he'll finish strong for us if we could just, we got to keep him healthy this year and get him through the season because he can be a big part of this rotation moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Pete, he's got a unique background, obviously. He's a Cuban pitcher, pitched in Japan, was in the bullpen. How different has it been working with him compared to some of the other guys you've been presented with?
Yeah, he's interesting for sure. I mean, obviously he pitched in Japan as a reliever, obviously, and in short stints. So, getting him here and kind of getting him into a starter routines was initially challenging because he really hasn't done it in a very long time. So we had to really watch him carefully. But I just think he's got this ability to throw. You're talking about 5 or 6 pitches anytime that he wants. And I just think he has a gift when it comes to that, and so I do think with him coming from Japan with some kind of an intricate ability to do that with the different arm angles and the hesitation and the different things that he can present, just makes it difficult for the hitter. But it's also as a pitching coach, as an organization, you're kind of watching that to see if in fact that will work here. Maybe there's some adjustments you need to make, some pitches that might not work as well. And then obviously the fluidity, the delivery, I think is really important. So getting him to be a little more fluid in his delivery and kind of minimizing those hesitations, to be honest with you, because they can also lead to walks and losing that fastball command, which he really can't afford to do. So, getting him a little smoother, getting him a little more fluid and trusting just his stuff. He doesn't necessarily have to trick people with the different arm slots.
Staying in the rotation, Kevin Gausman, a guy like that who's had the success that he's had in the American League East, sort of doing it with 2 pitches. We've seen him have trouble with velocity. We've seen him have trouble with swing and miss with the split finger. We've seen him add the 2-seamer. We've seen him throw more sliders. Like, we've seen him trying to sort of reinvent himself this part of his career. Yeah. Challenges for you, Petey, trying to do that with a veteran guy who's been paid, who's just basically going out there trying to give his team a chance to win. How tough is that?
It's not really that tough, to be honest with you, Kat, because he's a gamer. You know what I mean? I guess if he wasn't a gamer and didn't have that competitive edge, he might just kind of roll along with it. But he's willing. He's actually utilizing the 2-seamer now. He's throwing that slider a little bit more at times. But with him, really, he just got away from his delivery a little bit. And, we've kind of gotten back to what it should be. And I think you saw that last game. Sometimes it just happens over the course of a month or two. You just kind of get out of whack. He was doing a couple of things that didn't benefit him, really. And we got him back to doing what he does best. And he's a little more compact and a little quicker to the plate. And it seems like his timing is a lot better. So you're not seeing as many arm side misses. You don't see the split kind of fading to the right. It has more downward action. And we definitely had a better extension and more ride on his fastball in that last game. So he felt really good about it. Sometimes, unfortunately, it takes a little bit to kind of figure some things out. But he is the ultimate competitor, and I have a feeling he's gonna finish up extremely strong. Again, he had a challenging early part of the season, but he's bounced back, and I really feel good about where he's at right now.
Okay, it's maybe a dumb question, but the baseball is a game of adjustments, right? And I think personally you're one of the best at sort of seeing it and saying what you need to say to get that quick adjustment. How long do you have to see? Say you just mentioned arm side miss. How long do you have to see that before you walk up to a veteran guy like anybody in your rotation and say, we got to do something, like maybe bend over a little bit more at the waist, change the arm angle, get the slot better? How long do you have to see misses before you actually bring it up is my question.
I think it's always brought up. It's just about how dramatic that discussion is, because pitchers like hitters, they're always tinkering. They're always, when they play catch, they're working on grips. They're left talking to each other. They're, it's like hitters in the cage, right? So they're always playing around. And when you're a little bit off, and Kev knows he's been a little bit off. We've had plenty of discussions. But initially it wasn't so clear. There were some things he was doing. We were focusing on a couple of different things. But I think ultimately it just became more evident looking at old video, just going back and look at some things from 2-3 years ago. And all of a sudden you're like, man, you've changed a lot over time, and so it's almost like just getting him back to what he originally did. And like I said, these guys are open. I think there's a trust between us. We have great conversations. They have their own point of views for sure. They've been around, but I think it's just the respect. And, when I think if I do really say something that's from the heart, they take it and they take it to heart. And I think with Kev, we had a great discussion, and And he put together 5 or 6 different things in that one bullpen session and came out in Seattle and utilized it all. So I give him a ton of credit for that.
That's a great answer. I'm glad I asked that question.
Hey, Peter, I'm wondering, you talk about that sometimes the conversations can be dramatic. Look, we are getting close to the trade deadline. You've got veteran pitchers. Everybody loves them, some veteran pitchers. Are the conversations any different at this point of the year when you sit down with guys?
No, honestly, it's really the same, to be honest with you. We focus, I try to take everything day to day. It sounds cliche, but I really do, because you get caught up in all that stuff. You try to keep the guys focused on what they're doing at the park every day, whether they're working on something or who they're pitching against, game planning. If there's a subtle delivery or pitch change, you just focus on that. Good conversations that pertain to the game that day and maybe their next outing. But, all the other stuff, I do everything possible not to be a part of it or let those guys. They don't talk about it around me. If they do, it's not around me. So, I just think when we're at the park, we're all playing catch. It's really focused on the other team or what we're doing. There's so many things you can't control in this game, and the one thing you can't control is the effort that you put in and what you bring to the park every day to your teammates, and that's what I focus on. And it's disappointing where we're at right now. I don't think anybody ever expected it, but we're here. But what we do is, like I said, we control what we do every day at the yard, and we give our best effort. And honestly, just trying to keep the guys upbeat, and I'm just praying that we can put it together and make a run.
Petey, how is Brendan Little be able to throw the knuckle curve and the two-seamer in the zone more?
Yeah, I think you'll see a different. He simplified his delivery a little bit. If you look back to spring training, he's a little bit. There were some more moving parts. The glove was up high. Now he's a little bit. It's closer to his body and shorter arm path. He just seems like he's more compact and like I said, we don't want him thinking so much. His stuff is so good. He's got 3+ pitches. And obviously he had a tough time with strike throwing in the past, but right now he's throwing strikes and he's confident. And I'm sure he'll have a little bump in the road here and there, but he's really come a long way since spring training, and we feel really comfortable with him on the mound. His stuff, his sinker, his cutter, and his knuckle curve are all plus pitches and can get any big leaguer out. So it's a good find right there for us, for sure.
Yeah, this is great stuff. Okay, last one. With Bassett, is there something that you know now that you didn't know, say, when he first got here, that's impressed you to the point where it's almost like he's a pitching coach on the mound? A lot of the times I like to try and pay attention to you when you walk to the mound, how much talking you do and how much head shaking you do. That basically means you're listening to what the guy's got to say. With him, it just looks like you're doing more head shaking than talking. Have you learned something from him, coaching him at the big league level?
You know what? He's one of the guys. He's a super intellectual. He knows the game. He studies the game. He's constantly talking the game in the dugout. I love having conversations with him. He does like to talk. So there's always a lot of listening going on. Yeah. But he's a ton of fun to be around. He is so competitive. He's so prepared. He is one of the more consistent pitchers I've been around. You think you can't keep up that pace, when you meet someone like that. Like, there's no way he's going to keep up this pace over the course of the season, yet he does. So he is the same guy every day. He comes with a lot of energy. He loves to talk baseball. He's the ultimate competitor on the mound, and we're very lucky to have him. And, like I said, you don't know a lot about someone until they're really with you. I've seen him from across the diamond or across the dugout and watched him pitch in the past, but having him with us, he's really a special pitcher, and he gives everything he possibly has in every outing and every pitch. So he's a lot of fun to be around, and I think it rubs off on some of the other pitchers for sure.
Awesome.
Pete, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. Be well.
Thanks, buddy. Good luck, man.
You got it, guys. Take care.
See you, Petey.
Pete Walker, Blue Jays pitching coach. Wow. Some great, some
I
great insight.
I could have asked him 30 more questions.
Well, you could have asked a couple.
Well, I mean, he's busy, and sometimes sometimes I talk to Petey, and he don't always want to let everything out of the bag they're trying to do. It is a little bit of a secret kind of thing when you're struggling, and it is all about keeping the other team from scoring 0 runs, not 1 run, not 2 runs, not 3 runs, 0 runs. And, there's a lot goes into that. There is a game-to-game adjustment when it comes to what these guys are trying to do and how much they're trying to do it. And, it's not a secret that, these guys are throwing hard all of a sudden. It's not just because. It's because they make mechanical changes. They do little things because they know how important that if they're going to go on any run whatsoever, it has to start with the dude on the mound. So,
and
he's got his hands full every day. Like, it's hard doing all this stuff he's doing and trying to make these changes on the fly. And, again, it gets back to that John thing when I ask him what the heck took him so long with the Springer thing. Petey ain't no different when it comes to these veteran guys and making changes. Like, if we make a big change and I'm bent over now and I try this for 2 starts and it don't work and I look like I've never pitched before, now I've just wasted 2 starts and I got to try and reinvent it and work all over again. And now you got dudes that are chaps. So it's like, there's a fine line here. It's very tough at the big league level to do these things.
The thing that you've always talked about, and this is what I find a little puzzling about this, is these guys have been paid. And I would think that would make it easier to talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, it gets back to that Gibby thing. Again, I said this to you a bazillion times, and I used to ask Gibby standing behind the cage, and it was when Smokey was taking batting practice. And Smokey, that was when the shift was around, and everybody would stand on the right side of second base. And I'd always ask Gibby, why the heck don't he hit a 17-hopper to left field? He looked right at me, only way Gibby can say it, and say, because he made it to the big leagues doing it one way. He ain't going to change at the big league level. They don't care how much money they make anymore.
But a guy like Gossman, too. Now, Gossman, if you think back, go back and listen to the stuff he said when he first came here or read the stuff that was written about him. This is a guy who has made a lot of changes over the course of his career.
He's a 2-pitch guy now. That's a big deal. And I think sometimes it's embarrassing too, right? It's embarrassing that he's always got to turn around and look at the velocity, and he's got his teammates sort of ragging him. I mean, he's talked about that out loud about the teammates asked him, well, why is it 92? Why is it 90? Like, why you throw harder? Why is it consistently sitting at some 90s and 91s? And it's sometimes out of his control. So I think that
I would just say catch the ball and get a hit for me.
I mean, again, I'm sure at the beginning of the season, those conversations weren't being had.
Yeah.
But I'm sure on the bus and on the plane, I'm sure the conversations get a little different when the dudes aren't hitting, they ain't scoring no runs, they ain't winning no games, and you're doing your job and they ain't doing theirs. And you've had few too many cocktails, and somebody may say, won't you throw a little harder? And you may say, hey, don't be afraid to see ball hit ball occasionally. Yeah.
So it's interesting hearing, the conversations that we've had. We had with Danny, we had with Pete, and we've been having with other people about Yusei Kikuchi and how last night was his best start of the year. If you are a contending team, a team that thinks it has a shot at going to the playoffs, what would your confidence level be in having Yusei Kikuchi start a playoff game for you?
That's a great question. I mean,
because I look at him, the stuff is there, but let's face it, he
gives up a lot of homers.
Exactly.
So not great. How about that?
And because what happens in the playoffs?
That's how they win games, is they hit more homers than you do.
Yeah.
He gives up a lot of homers. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't like to have him on my team. But
he's a guy. I will say this, because I've had someone point this out to me. We were talking about Kikuchi, because I've been saying, you look at his track record against some teams. I had someone point out to me, Yusei Kikuchi, he can be a guy that can help you get to the playoffs, obviously. Maybe once the playoffs are there, he might have to be a guy who goes into the bullpen for you. You may not want him to, if you're a good.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough sell when a dude's trying to get paid again. Good luck selling that. I wouldn't. If I were him, I wouldn't do that.
Well, you got no choice.
Yeah, you sort of do.
You got no choice.
I mean, I can go in a manager's office and be like, hey, dude.
And then you're going to
I came here to be a starter.
Then you're going to become a free agent, and the word's going to be out there that this guy didn't want
to be a starter. Like I love that. That would be a rocky road.
That's my question.
Depends on the team, how good the team is, how far he thinks the team could go, how much they'd use him down there. Would they abuse him? Is it an occasion instead of an abusing part? Like, would they pitch him every day? Would they pitch him once a series? Like, a lot of things would go into how much you would use him there. I mean, there would be a time, I think, to use him in a game. But you just look at the home runs he gave up. 0-2 fastball right down the middle, 1-0 fastball right down the middle. It doesn't matter who he's facing in the order either. For whatever reason, it seems like when he makes a mistake, it thing gets destroyed. destroyed.
Doesn't matter who it's to.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it don't matter how hard he's throwing it either. I mean, I know the one of the fastballs in the 8th inning there was like 92 miles an hour. I mean, maybe he gripped that thing wrong or stepped in the wrong spot or just didn't finish it right or something. But 92, that's a little weird velocity. But, I mean, would that look the same away from the Blue Jays? Again, too, he just seems like a guy that has to have everything right, at least for me. Now, I may be wrong. You know, again, that velocity plays, boy. Like it's taken Petey a while to get him here.
Yeah.
Like to calm him down and not get him to overthink it, to get him to eliminate a lot of the times his changeup, split change, whatever that thing he's trying to throw. You know, occasionally the inconsistency on the spin. Like the spin was better last night on the slider. That's why you saw him throw it more. And the curveball, you throw it more. You know, the fastball velocity, I think a lot of it's where you set up and, you know, you're trying to get him to make sure he misses when he misses because everybody knows when he does miss down the middle, no matter how hard it is to whoever it is, it gets hammered. I think the Blue Jays are, when it just comes to when they start trading dudes, man.
What?
Unless you're trading one of them two dudes that play short or first. I mean, I know they're gonna somewhat back it up and give basically away what they're gonna give away and not get much for it, which is what you do when you're as far out as they are. And
you got guys. Basically, you're
getting anything for Turner. You're getting anything for Danny Jansen. I mean, you might. You say Kikuchi, maybe.
Go back but Kevin, nobody trades.
I'm not saying it ain't going to happen.
No, but
I'm not saying it ain't the right thing to do. But I'm saying if they're, it's like you.
No, you're not going to trade Danny Jansen for next year's cleanup hitter.
Like
it's not going to happen.
Everything they have to do next year, and on top of it, you start trading pitching, which is what got you there. I'm not saying that that's not what they're going to do, and that's probably what they should do. But the Yusei Kikuchis with Pete Walker and the catchers that they got catching Yusei don't grow on trees.
Well, he's a free agent.
I understand. I'm not saying it's not wrong. But if you close your eyes and look at big picture and what that thing could turn out looking like next year with what they have to give up and what they have to do in the offseason, I mean, whoa.
Well, you say Kikuchi's not coming back next year.
Maybe.
He's not coming back next year. So I don't see the I don't see the point of your argument.
It's not really an argument.
The idea is to get things that are going to help you next year and the year after. That's why you trade these. Why would you trade Danny Jansen? You don't have a catcher. You don't have a catcher for next year. But maybe you get something that's going to help you someplace else next year, like a bullpen arm. That's all I'm expecting. Like I hate to tell people this,
the expectations going into
Jimmy Garcia and Danny Jansen, they're not bringing back. You're not getting next year's cleanup hitter for any of those guys. Somebody may overpay for Yusei Kikuchi. Who knows? But you're not getting a cleanup hitter for those guys. You're probably going to get more of a Santiago Espinal / for Steve Pierce deal. That's generally what you're looking at. Justin Turner's not bringing back somebody's top prospect. Just not happening. Kevin Kiermaier's, you might have to swallow some money to find somebody to take Kevin Kiermaier off your hands. Same thing with Justin Turner. You may have to swallow some money. There you get into that situation where the more money you take, the better the prospect you get. But
yeah, just don't be shocked when Blair comes on reading off who the Blue Jays got for who they traded, and nobody's ever heard of him.
Well, of course not. That's the way it is, and that's with every team. That's not just with the Blue Jays. Take a look at all the trades that were made last year. Do you know any of those guys that came back for half of those teams? Nope. Hunter Pence is the World Series champion with the Giants. He's a commentator on NBC Sports Bay Area. He will join us next. Jeff Passan as well. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. We've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. Reminder, standard message and data rates may apply. Our last question and answer was, who was the winning pitcher for the Tigers in the final day of the 1987 season when they eliminated the Jays? The answer was Frank Tanana. Loved Frank Tanana. Today's question is to win tickets to see that, not because he did that, but as a pitcher. Today's question is to win tickets to see Jays and Tigers at the Rogers Center on Sunday, July 21st. The question is as follows. Daniel Norris, Matthew Boyd, and Jairo Labur were traded to the Detroit Tigers at the 2015 trade deadline for what pitcher? Again, Matthew Boyd, Daniel Norris, and Jairo Labur were traded to the Detroit Tigers at the 2015 trade deadline for what pitcher? Text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. Again, standard message and data rates may apply. 9:45 will be the first pitch tonight. The Jays taking on the San Francisco Giants in the second game of this three-game series. The Giants winning the first game 4-3 on a walk-off wild pitch. Always a fun way to lose a game, he said. Hunter Pence is a commentator in NBC Sports Bay Area, also a former World Series champion with the Giants. He joins us on Blair and Barker. Hunter, thanks so much for joining Kevin and myself this afternoon. We appreciate your time. Just a general question to get us started. You know, following the National League West this year and you know, now that we've seen the Giants here and doing a little bit of reading on the team, what do you think the Giants are right now as a team?
Oh, man. You know, Blair, I really like this team a lot. And I know we're 2 games under 500 at the moment, but it's been kind of one of these teams that just kind of slowly keeps getting better. They've had a couple really, really, really terrible road trips. And, you know, they just played bad baseball where it was a big head scratcher. You know, I think if I remember calling some of the games, you know, Chapman, one of the platinum gold glovers, crazy good defender, had a little rough stretch defensively, and they just found a way to lose a couple games they could have won. But, I mean, when you really look at the team and you look at who's coming back, if you get Blake Snell, what you saw yesterday, you get him kind of cooking in the second half. They're looking at getting Robbie Ray back, who's looked great in the minor leagues. This team is looking like a team that could sneak into a wild card spot, and you do not want to face a Logan Webb, Blake Snell, Alex Cobb, Robbie Ray, and you know, Jordan Hicks has been absolutely spectacular in the starter's role, and I know y'all had him in the bullpen last year, but he has just been a leader. I think Matt Chapman, and it's one of these like teams that if you aren't really paying attention, like I remember like the Nationals in 2019, that like horrible start, and then they just started playing great baseball. No one really knew it until they got to the postseason, and it kind of has that feel where, you know, Bob Melvin and Pat Burrell and Justin Velia and these guys, it's a really, really good baseball minds, and the team is really bought in and tight-knit. So I know it's a long-winded answer, and there's more to even dive deeper, but as a baseball kind of old-school guy, this team is really fun to watch.
Hunter, how do you think they score more runs? That would be the question. I mean, all the things you just mentioned are awesome, and I'm sure that's going to take place and get everybody healthy and the experience, and catching the ball in the infield's a giant deal, especially in that park. But how do they score more runs, especially in Oracle? Like, how do they go in there and, you know, stay away from the wind and not get frustrated when they're not, you know, having success because they lay in the balls? How do they get past that part of it?
Yeah, you know, I think that kind of comes with the territory. And you know, as a guy who hit there for many years, I loved it because it conceded itself to the little things matter and doing the details and like playing the game right, running the bases right. And this is kind of a group that likes that. And like, I mean, obviously Ramos, who is our all-star, you're looking at a 907 OPS. You saw what he did. He took 95 down and in and hit it out to center field. He hasn't changed his approach. He's got some crazy tools, just really fast, really strong. 13 homers missing a month of the season. That has been a really big breath of fresh air. You look at Lamont Wade, you know, he'll be in there when you have a righty starting. This guy was just heating up when he pulled the hamstring, leading the league in on-base percentage. So I think you get those guys healthy. Matt Chapman's going to do what he can do. And the first 2 months of the season, Jorge Soler was absolute, and he was trying too hard, and he was just out of whack, and he was not the Jorge Soler that you see. And these guys have been going to work, and he has been since those 2 months. And everyone, the Snell and the Soler, these guys came in and weren't doing what they do. But you know how veterans are. Their numbers are going to be their numbers, and Soler has just turned up. So you look at a Patrick Bailey, who's a guy who's going to just be consistent. So really, when I think every team can say this: if you can stay healthy, this team can score some runs and play some gritty, grindy baseball.
You played on some good teams. You won some World Series. How do you not try too hard?
You know what? This is definitely the age-old question, and I remember being a young guy having some ruts where everyone would tell me that, and you didn't understand it. But the more you study, the game of baseball, and you're looking at what is the task at hand is to give yourself the best opportunity to succeed each time. And it's you obviously care so much, but your highest chance of succeeding is a relaxed state. You're more fluidity is more accurate, fixated muscles. So you have to kind of let go and trust and be willing, honestly, to take a bad swing, to trust that it's going to pan itself out. But really, when you trust in the process and you just create a routine that you can believe in, and regardless of results, I think that's how you don't try too hard. So if you're swinging too hard and sped up and your front side, a lot of times those are the things. And this is what, Pat Burrell was telling me in his talks with Soler. He's like, you're swinging so hard. Look at what God gave you. You're 6'5" and you're massive and you're strong. Do less. And so try to do a little less and trust what you already have. And as soon as he did that and he started slowing down, and if you look at Ramos right now when he's batting, I'm not sure if y'all watched the game last night, but how slow is his pace? I know y'all watched Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for so long, and when Bo Bichette is right, it's a very slow pace. And I know that's kind of an anomaly in and of itself. A couple of your veterans, the Springer and the Bo Bichette, you could have never saw that coming. But, these guys, when they're locking in, everything, the body slows down. You almost think of the Panthers. So you got to slow down. And for me, a lot of times it was I want to just lock in on hitting a hard ground ball at the second baseman. That's enough for me. And everything has to come into alignment to do that. And even if you try to do that with a big league pitcher, it's going to end up doing lots of great things.
Andrew, you mentioned Ramos. He is going to the All-Star game. How on earth did that guy not make the team out of spring training? And how on earth did that guy get back on the team?
I think you got to give a lot of credit, honestly, to the AAA hitting coach, Damon Minor. And obviously you give a lot of credit to Ramos and the work that he's put in. And, I've been following this kid since he was 16, and we've been very excited about the talent. And we've seen it happen a couple times in spring training. But when he's gotten called up, it has been, once again, one of those probably trying too hard. A lot of times you want to be more than yourself, but you have to actually, the bigger the pressure, the less you got to do because the adrenaline will take over. And I think he really just credits changing his mindset, having a positive attitude and letting his talent kind of take over. But Damon Minor also got Brett Wisely, got him to stand a little taller. If you're looking at Ramos's at-bats, he's not trying to pull anything. He's going up the middle. He's taking it the other way. The pulling happens when he catches an off-speed out front. And I think that's just a recipe for success. He's letting his talent take over. And, obviously, batting a $180 in his big league career, it's going to be tough to make it out of spring unless you have a crazy season. And they already had kind of, Austin Slater was the longest tenured veteran. Matos had an amazing spring training, and he's going to be a dynamic young talent as well. We're going to see him doing similar things as Ramos. He is so young. So it's just the way that spring training played out, the way that it was dynamic, it was going to be, he was going to have to come out of the, be where he is right now in spring training. He just wasn't there. And it all kind of came together. And Damon Minor has been doing a tremendous job for the Giants for a long time in AAA. And he's made some huge, huge changes to a lot of these hitters, and they've trusted him. And they're coming up and really impacting the Giants team.
When Logan Webb is great, what's he doing?
When Logan Webb is great, this is three elite pitches with crazy movement. He's an east-west guy, both the sinker and the changeup. And this is what is so challenging about him is they both have the same movement, but one is, about 8 miles an hour faster than the other. But the changeup, you can know it's coming, and it just drops off the table. It reminds me of the old Greinke pitch where when he was throwing 89, his fastball was 89, his changeup was 88, but the changeup just moved so much. It's just this like dynamic pitch mix, and then the sweeper / slider, he calls it a slider. It's going to be tough to take because it's all moving a lot more above the league average, and it's a difficult thing as a hitter. If you're going to approach that, you have to completely tunnel one of those pitches, and he's got 3 of them, and he's going to throw a lot of pitches that look like a strike for a long time, and they're going to dive out of the zone late, and hitters just aren't able to really lay off of it.
Jays are getting Jordan Hicks tomorrow. What are you seeing from him? What do you like? What do you dislike?
I mean, I like everything about Jordan Hicks. More so, obviously, his numbers and the way he's been able to pitch and eat innings. The thing that I've really enjoyed is my conversations with him. I think the body language, the leadership in the clubhouse that he's brought some intangibles. He's got just natural, real confidence. And when the Giants had hit some really, really tough spurts and they were going through the thick of it, he was a guy that his words were like, we're going to get out of this. We're a good team. Like, and you could see it in his body language, the leadership that he's carrying the team with. And he was just showing up and posting. You're looking at the fastball's not doing what he was doing, 105, 101, just one inning, but he'll run it up there whenever he calls it closer mode. If runners get in scoring position, the game gets tight, the velo is going to get up, but he's trusting the split. It's a really nasty split. He gets a lot of ground balls and just a character guy that's been meant a lot to the team and the leadership in the clubhouse.
It's been really fascinating because in this day and age of velo, Hunter, I don't have to tell you, this is a guy that, in some cases has actually taken velocity off and become he's always going to have great stuff, but become even a little bit more of a pitcher. When the Giants signed this guy, and I was trying to think back to what Farhan said at the time, if I'm not mistaken, they seemed really confident that he was going to be able to make this transition, didn't they? Because, it's guys go the other way, but kind of a guy that the Cardinals thought might eventually be a closer going back to starter. You don't always see that.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, like intrinsically, Jordan wanted to start. He's like, I want to start, and he wants to face the best in the league. He's one of these guys that loves the competition, loves the work, loves to get into the thick of it. And so I think when you have an attitude like that, and he's like, I'm going to prove it to you, and he just like that, like I said, that natural confidence. And for the Giants, obviously we love the talent, we love the character, we love the guy. And it's like, yeah, you want this, and we needed a role, we needed a starter, and if that didn't work out, you can always bring him back, and he has tremendous value in the bullpen. Let's get back your confidence, But he just from the get-go in spring training, he was on a mission. He was determined to show up, and that's what he did. Coming up in the Cardinals organization, is he was a starter, and that's what he enjoys more. He wanted to pitch more, and so I think when it's intrinsic like that, and it means a lot, and honestly, the mental and the competitiveness and the confidence that he has, but he's also just a crazy athlete and the skill to really master that split and to work through lineups and honestly also staying dynamic. I think Brian Price, the pitching coach of the Giants, he loves the pitchers that don't just follow the spreadsheet, that look at the hitter, that compete with the hitter. I think anyone that's been in combat or been in sports and the speed of the game, if you just fall back on the cookie cutter, what the sheet says, they're going to figure you out. And so he's playing the game, and he's got a lot of feel, and he's got a lot of weapons.
Hunter, do you think this is the Blake Snell that the Giants are going to consistently get, the one that we saw last night?
Yeah, I hope so, and I think so. And, I mean, we all know what Blake Snell's capable of. And, and a lot of the guys hate to hear this, but the thing was, they say tread water and wait till we get these guys back and healthy. And Snell's been on the back foot from the get-go, like trying to rush, trying to prove, trying to make make new teammates and wanting to earn the stripes. But you need that spring training time. There's just and everyone complains about it, but I don't care what you say, you need it, especially as you get older and you really master the craft. You need to work it out, take the time and build it up. And he's, a competitor, wants to come up and show up for the team because we're lacking. We needed some more starting pitching. And like you said, like we were just talking about, Jordan Hicks is really clutched up there, the bullpen. I think that's actually the biggest question. And I should probably answer your question more about Snell, but I do think that this is what we're going to get as long as we slow him down. And as much as it's going to be tough and we're in the thick of it, we have to let him build up properly. I think he realized that after the second injury. and let him cook, man. When he gets going, he's as good as it gets. And the goal is get in the playoffs and have him right, have Cobb, have Webb, have Robbie Ray right, and let's see what happens, because those guys can pitch with anyone. And for me, I think the biggest question, because the rest of it, I really think is a team that's fun to watch, that's really complete. The rest of it's going to be is, can the bullpen survive the torment that they've had to carry? They've had to carry a big load this first half, but they've been extraordinary.
Hunter, really good of you to join us today, man. Terrific insight. Yeah. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Hunter.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And thank you all for thinking of me and having me. And always love Toronto. And so I really appreciate you all thinking of me over here.
Very nice.
Be well, Hunter.
Thanks,
Take
Hunter.
care.
See you.
All right. Take care.
See you, buddy.
Hunter Pence. And if you've listened to this show for a long time, how many times there was a couple of years there around the trade deadline where we were saying, you know what the Jays need to do?
Yeah.
They need to go out and get Hunter. It's funny because we did. We used to talk about they need to go out and get Hunter Pence.
Yeah.
It was perfect guy for a team going to the postseason. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
He interesting though, hearing him talk about hitting in that ballpark, because I was looking for your reaction to that, because you were. I would think it'd be safe to say that it's probably the ballpark you would least like to have played in.
Absolutely. They'd have to overpay.
But explain what he was what he was saying there. I mean, you have to be a certain type of hitter to be able to pull that off, don't you?
Well, I think moving the fences around has helped that park a little bit. I know where they put the bullpens now, and just it's got a different feel, and maybe the ball carries in different places than it used to when even I took batting practice there. I know I didn't play a ton of games there, but I took a ton of batting practice, and you hit it one side of the field, the ball just didn't carry there. It just didn't. Like
there was a ball. There were a couple of balls last night hit the center field that I thought
was very rare that you would see a righty go to right center like you saw last night. Like that's a little different. So that'd tell you maybe the balls are carrying a little bit differently there, give you a little different mindset. You keep you square to the ball, those kind of things, right? You have a tendency, right, to sometimes when balls are not carrying to certain places, is you want to change things, right? You don't want to hit it over there. And I don't swing at that. I take pitches that I should normally be swinging at and hitting hard, and it's free and easy. And I think it's funny about the Soler thing when he was talking. He's trying too hard. Listen to him talk about trying too hard, because expectations, and we talk about this a lot with Bo and Vladdy, and
I think guys do try.
It's hard. What Hunter was talking about, that comes with experience. Like first of all, you got to be paid. You don't have to be worrying about your job going through things like that, right? Trusting it, trusting the process that everything you're doing is going to work, and don't go outside the box, be free and easy. Most dudes ain't like that. Most dudes don't make $1 bazillion, been around forever, and can do things like that. It's a fine line. So
I wonder though too with Jorge Soler, and maybe this is. I'm sure this is part of the reason that the Braves put that team together the way they did, and the Giants put their teams together when they were so successful. I would think if you were a guy who's had not just been paid, but if you've won a World Series or had some postseason success, I would think that would be a little easier to pull that off.
Yeah, and then you hear front offices say that they brought a guy here to give right-handed thump against good pitching. Like he was brought here to hit 35 or 40 homers. Remember the conversation at the front office with the Blue Jays had about Bo and Vladdy was, we believe in the core. The core is two dudes. Like that, and different people handle that in different ways. And when one guy ain't getting it done, the other guy thinks he has to do double of what he normally can do. And then you try harder, and then you expand, and then the snowball starts going down the mountain a little too fast, like Bo right now. That's sort of where it's at, right? And you just don't know how to even slow it down, not stop it. Even slow it down. It's not the easiest thing to do. So
it's interesting hearing him talk about pace too, talking about with Ramos the pace, right?
Yeah, it's like you actually got to see that play out, have success, and. They've been talking about pace forever. I mean, that's not anything outside. It's not anything else. But you got to really be in tune with yourself and trust who you are as a player and be confident in where you're at with the organization. And
do you think that maybe
I never was that?
No. Do you think that maybe playing in that ballpark though, there is a reality to playing in San Francisco. And do you think that might make it easier for guys who play there year-round to adapt to that? Because, I mean, you talked about, I'm sure those guys all take batting practice there a lot, and I'm sure they know that, it doesn't matter what I do, this is what the result's going to be. Does that make it easier?
I'm pretty sure it was Dan yesterday when Yusei threw an elevated fastball to Chapman with 2 strikes. And Dan, the first thing out of Dan's mouth, wow, did you see how he flattened his bat out and tried to stay on top of that?
Yeah.
Did we ever see him do that with the Blue Jays? No. So I think a lot of that has to do with the park. When the ball don't carry, big part of the field, more line drives than analytically uppercutting, bent upper half, trying to get launch angle and all those things. When, it's just where they're trying to get you out, how consistently you have trouble with the same pitch over and over and over again. And the park you play in, your 81 home games, and, there's a lot that goes into it. So and then you're trying to get paid for your family. You want to get that multi-year deal. And, the conversations you can hear Matt have off the field when he's talking to the press about, the options just were not there. And, obviously Major League Baseball didn't think about me the way I think about myself the year that I had.
Were you surprised? Were you surprised that he said the Jays came back with a late offer? What does that tell you? That the Jays came back with a late offer, and essentially what he said was, too little, too late. But what does that tell you?
Yeah, I think I would have taken that the other way. I think the offer would have been big enough. He'd be a Blue Jay. No,
I wonder if I've often wondered about this with some free agents if they get to a certain point where, you've waited that long for your contract. And it was pretty clear that the Jays made the offer after the Giants made the offer. And he was thinking, I found that really odd because does that mean that the Jays actually wanted to sign him but were slow playing the market and got caught with their pants down a little bit? You look at.
When did they sign IKF? I'd have to go back and look at the timeline.
Because Matt Chapman didn't sign until...
That's a great question.
I wondered about that, because you made the point earlier when we were talking about Matt Chapman. Would you take this team with Matt Chapman right now and Justin Turner?
Yes.
Yeah, and I just kind of wondered if maybe, and I don't expect I don't think the Jays would be honest about this, but I mean, did they miscalculate? Did they want to bring Matt Chapman back and not get around to doing it? Let's be clear. You can bring Matt Chapman. IKF's not breaking the bank. You could have brought Matt Chapman back and had an infield of Chapman, Bichette, IKF, and Vladdy. That's a pretty good defensive infield.
Yeah, I think they were looking for
if you're looking at run prevention, that's a crap ton of run prevention.
They had an opportunity to sort of change the way their lineup looked and went away from having the same kind of guys being pitched to the same exact way, right?
I wondered about that when I heard that.
I mean, you could have a bunch of dudes in the lineup all at the same time but don't like the elevated fastball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not right now. It's not the hardest lineup to work through. You had another guy in there. I mean, you say, here it is, see if you can hit it, Dick. And it's just the inability to make an adjustment. Maybe just can't. Maybe that's what it is. There's a big enough sample size on a ball in a certain zone where, man, you just can't. And if you get it down a couple of inches from that zone, you better not be missing that thing. And I think maybe Matt's there. And that's maybe why Matt didn't get a bunch of – obviously who his agent is. I'm sure his agent is, obviously thinking he's the greatest agent ever, and he is. But when you're in an offseason and you're trying to get your player the most amount of money in the most amount of years.
He ended up settling for $20 million and 25, 27 are player or as a mutual option, player or mutual option. So I'm just trying to see when he signed this particular contract.
What date?
That's what I'm trying to see here. And it's not going to let me do this.
I mean, I'm sure it was, around Yusei and what they were trying to do, Yusei and what, and figuring out if they could or if they couldn't. And
March 3rd. They signed him on March 3rd.
Or Ohtani. Excuse me. It's sort of that thing, right? When you figure
Ohtani, out that was done by then.
Yeah,
March 3rd,
that's what I'm talking about.
That was done. So you already.
So now you're trying to pivot a little. You're trying to bring back. You're trying to run prevent. You're trying to. There's a lot.
Wouldn't be the first time that.
I know who knows what the relationship is between even the players and Matt and the players that are here already.
That's a good point.
The Matt in the front office, like it matters a little bit. Matt or the front office and the agent, like there's a lot goes into yes, no, or no chance. Who knows? I don't know. Would they be the same place they are with Matt?
They'd be better defensively.
Is the defense the reason why they're 9 games under 500? Not a chance.
No, but
it is not.
Maybe they'd be 7 games.
They were the worst offense in the history of the sport for like 2.5 months. I don't know. You'd be talking about trading Matt at the deadline. That's what we'd be doing.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Matt hit Matt was one guy who did hit some home runs at the Rogers Center. I don't know. I find it interesting. I always find this interesting when and it's like anything else. You never know the truth, but I often find that there are front offices that sometimes don't move fast enough and get cute and get caught with their pants.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a little chuckle there for Matt where he sees who's playing third and where their record's at, the team he's on, where their record's at. I'm sure.
Jeff Passan is ESPN's MLB insider. He's also one of our weekly insiders. He'll join us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan. 9:45 will be the first pitch tonight.
Ooh, that's late. How you holding up on them late games?
I'm all right. Moore's what, 3-something?
45.
3:45. We'll be doing Blue Jays talk radio only tomorrow. We won't be on TV as we normally are during afternoon games. It'll be radio only tomorrow. So you can catch us on Blue Jays talk at Sportsnet 590, The Fan. And we're going to skedaddle for 4 days over the All-Star break. But rest assured, if anything happens, if anybody gets fired or traded, we'll haul ass back into the studio and break it all down for you.
Hey, it's going to be challenging for you to find me.
Oh, I'll find you.
No.
Oh, I'll find you.
It's like them days off in the big leagues. You want to send me down? You're going to have to come hunting me, bud.
I'll find you. Don't worry. Not that we expect anything necessarily to happen over the at this point. I mean, you got the draft, and then you got to, especially with this front office.
Be nice.
Let's bring in Jeff Passan, ESPN.
Speaking of nice.
The Insider. Speaking of nice. How you doing, Passan?
Doing well, boys. How are you?
Can I ask the first question?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Jeff, tell me why Paul Skenes should not be starting the All-Star game.
Should not be starting?
Or should be? You
should
want him
not,
to start.
Should. What'd I say?
You said should not. You
should.
want him to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're silly.
I do. I want him to start.
Do you not, Blair?
No, he does not. He thinks it's silly.
Oh, my God.
That's what I'd see.
You're just so old.
No, it's, I mean, what? How many innings is he going to have under his belt? 61?
Jeff, how many innings does anyone have under his belt?
Henderson, Soto, and Judge. That's all I want to see.
Listen, I think.
Thank you. 100%.
Nah, I would take any three of them.
Okay, Jeff. I'm going to make my argument here, and I would like for you to take it apart as you will.
All right.
Okay. The All-Star game exists as something to celebrate baseball, all of the finest things that it has, and to promote the game. There is no incentive anymore for winning the All-Star game other than pride. With that in mind, that this is an exhibition, should the goal not be to engage as many baseball fans, both passionate and, burgeoning as possible? And if that is indeed the goal, which I believe it is and should be, what better way to engage fans than to give them the best power pitcher in baseball right now against arguably the 3 best hitters in baseball right now in Gunnar Henderson, Aaron Judge, and Juan Soto?
Because I don't think I think there are 3
hasn't earned
pitchers.
It.
He
hasn't earned it. Shut up. I don't want to hear it.
There are 3 pitchers on the Philadelphia Phillies who have earned it. I think
so
Rangers.
One of them, Zach Wheeler, is not even going to be at the All-Star game. The other one, Ranger Suarez, has had a really good year, but if
It's Ranger Suarez. Yes, I get it.
Yeah. And who's the third? Christopher Sanchez?
Listen, I will say this. I will say this, and Barker, of course, only hears what he wants to hear. He never listens. I did say when we were having this discussion that I made your argument entirely. What do we remember the All-Star games?
Yeah.
We remember Pedro striking out, what was it, Larkin, somebody, Sosa, and then McGuire. He struck them out to start the next inning. We remember Randy Johnson and Larry Walker putting his batting helmet on backwards and, John Kruk basically bailing. I get that. But I still think starting the All-Star game is a reward for a body of work done to that point in the season. And yes, Paul Skenes is electric. There's no pitcher I'd rather watch than Paul Skenes.
Except starting the All-Star game.
Well, it's not like I'm losing sleep over it. Barker seems to, again, he takes this way too seriously. You know what I'm like. I only believe really 10% of what I say most of the time, and that's all. That's all there is to it. But no, I think
it's a terrible argument.
I think that it's a reward for anyhow. For
Ranger.
So I'm gonna. Here's the thing: baseball is a sport that is rooted in its history, Jeff. Right?
Yes.
In 1976. Among the pitchers on the American League All-Star team were Catfish Hunter and Louis Tiant.
Yes.
But guess who got the start in that game for the American League?
Who got the start?
That would be a 21-year-old right-handed pitcher who was an absolute phenom and took the sport by storm. And his name was Mark Fidrich, and I understand that he had a lot more innings than Paul Skenes did, but I believe he had 11 starts to his name when he started the All-Star game. And guess how many starts Paul Skenes is going to have when the All-Star game rolls around? 11.
11.
There is precedent here, I suppose, is my point. And look, there have been people in the game. I've been sort of tooting this idea for, a week plus now. And there have been people in the game who have come to me and said, you are so full of it. He hasn't earned it. Where's the body of work? Where's this? And my only retort to that is, I'm not going to say baseball's dying, because it's not. But baseball needs every big viral moment it can get to survive in this media landscape where our attention is pulled in a million different directions. And in the same way that I, not a women's college basketball fan, tuned into the Final Four to watch Caitlin Clark, I think that a lot of non-baseball fans, when they hear who Paul Skenes is, what he's capable of doing, and who he would face at the top of that order, would tune in to watch. And that gives Major League Baseball one inning to show that this game's actually really good and cool and fun and interesting and worth your time. And that, to me, is worth its weight in gold.
Do you think he will start?
I haven't asked Torey Lovello yet. My guess is no, because I think it would anger the establishment too much. But I think there are also enough pragmatic people who are going to push for the idea that, what I'm curious about, I always worry about godding up guys too much, and am I guilty of doing that? And look, from the beginning of the season to the point where he got called up, to writing 3,000 words on him, to tweeting about all of the fantastic things he's done. Am I going too far out on my skis with Paul Skenes? It's not that I don't think he's going to live up to all of the things that I have said or written, because I do. I think he's that good. But I'm also going to acknowledge that he's a pitcher who throws 100 miles per hour and he could get hurt tomorrow. and there's just a reality. So, we can say that there are so many other All-Star games that Paul Skenes is going to start, but the truth is, man, we have no idea how long he's going to stay healthy. And I think the most perfect example of that also is Mark Fidrich.
Yeah, no, it's funny. As you were talking, I was just reading about. I mean, I remember Fidrich vaguely, the bird, but yeah, no,
he was fun to watch.
He was.
There you go.
He was a show.
There it is.
He was a show. Okay, you're right. Ask him another question, Barker.
Hey,
you win.
Hey, Jeff, who makes the biggest splash?
I really do have the courage. I really do.
I already won this.
I have the courage of my convictions, don't I? I really have the courage of my convictions.
I already won this question. This answer.
I have courage of my convictions.
Jeff, who makes the biggest splash in the American League East at the trade deadline? Which team?
I think it's got to be the Yankees. I don't know if the Red Sox are going to make a splash at all, frankly. I think if they do make trades, they're going to be more complimentary moves because this year's been a bit of a surprise, and I think they can be perhaps a little bit of regression in place, and so they don't want to give up too much prospect capital. And I think the Orioles, just generally speaking, they realize how good they have it now, and they don't want to do anything to ruin it. They need another starting pitcher. Like, that's just a fact. But I don't know that they look at Garrett Crochet necessarily, who is the best starting pitcher out on the market right now, as the answer this year, because he's already surpassed his career high in innings. And if you're going to pay the price that he's going to cost, which is quite hefty, then you're going to want him to start this year. And some organizations may look at him and say, if we have him for 2 more years on top of this, we want him to be healthy for those 2 years too. And, arguably the second best starting pitcher who's going to be out there is Jack Flaherty. And he was there in Baltimore last year after the trade deadline and didn't work out well. So I doubt there's going to be a return engagement. And after that, you just end up looking at some of the teams that are selling right now. Oakland doesn't have a particularly desirable starter it's willing to trade. The Angels don't have any starters they're willing to trade. Eric Fetty, maybe, but I think the Yankees are probably going to make a move bigger than Eric Fetty.
How about Skubal with the Tigers?
Skubal's not going anywhere.
No?
No chance. Nope. No chance.
Orioles wouldn't do that?
Why? I think the Orioles would. I just don't think that they can how much do you have to give up for Tarek Skubal at this point?
Great question.
Like for real. The cost would be exceptional because you get him for this year and then 2 more years after that. And we're talking about the guy who's probably going to win the American League Cy Young this year. I cannot see the Tigers, who have aspirations of contention within the next year, turning around and dealing their best player, regardless of who's coming back, regardless of how much they need on the offensive side, which is a pretty significant bit.
Jeff, when you look at those Orioles prospects and those minor leaguers, leave the Baseball America or leave the ratings aside, which of those minor leaguers do you think the Orioles would most likely move in a deal? I mean, if they had, again, providing the deal gives them some help. Who do you think they would kind of go, okay, we'll move him?
I think it depends on the size of the deal. Jackson Holliday is not going anywhere.
Right.
I do not think Kobe Mayo is going to go anywhere. Sam Basayo is really interesting. He's 19 years old. He's AA already, more than holding his own. But he's a catcher. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, man, Adley Rutschman's pretty good. Yeah. And so if Basayo's not going to be catching, he's going to play first base. They've got Ryan O'Hearn there. And, depending on what things look like going forward, you can assume that Kobe Mayo is probably going to end up at first base. Now, he could be at third, and Jordan Westburg could move to second for this season. But if you have Holiday as a second baseman long-term, Westburg is your third baseman, Gunnar Henderson is your shortstop, Mayo is your first baseman, and Adley Rutschman is your catcher.
Wow.
I I haven't seen Mayo in the big leagues yet. We've seen Holiday, and he wasn't very good. I anticipate that Holiday is going to be very good, and I anticipate that Mayo is going to be very good. And if that is the case, then we may well be looking at a potentially all-time great infield. Now, again, these guys, they're not there yet necessarily, but Jordan Westburg's an all-star this year. Gunnar Henderson's an all-star this year. Adley Rutschman's an all-star this year. Pretty good place to start when you're the first team in history to have 3 guys in an infield within their first 3 years in the big leagues making an all-star team.
Jeff, do you think that the Tyler Glasnow injury is a bit, I'm not going to say a cautionary tale for the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. Look, the Dodgers obviously are all in, but do you think the Tyler Glasnow injury maybe give them a little more sense of urgency at the trade deadline, or were they going to do what the Dodgers are going to do regardless?
I mean, the Dodgers pitching staff right now is just an absolute nightmare. They optioned Bobby Miller to AAA today.
Yeah.
And here are the guys on the injured list for them: Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, and Emmett Sheehan. When Clayton Kershaw is the 4th guy being mentioned,
yeah,
that says something about your pitching injuries right there. And they're down to they are bare bones at this point. And the fact that they're still holding on to first place, I think, is a testament to their depth that they've been able to get this far. But, man, if you're talking like a rotation that is built around Gavin Stone, who you didn't even know was going to be in the rotation coming into this season, and James Paxton and Landon Knack, another rookie, it's grim right now. So, yeah, they need some help. They need some depth. And I think that they have the opportunity to go out and get some, even if it's not that frontline type starter. They have enough organizational depth with their prospects where they're going to be all right, even if they do have to trade a couple of guys.
Jeff, is there a sleeper team in the National League that might make a big splash? Say the Cardinals.
Big
or the Giants.
Are not the Cardinals style, man. And I just don't think the Giants are good enough to make a big splash at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think so, actually. And I hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope a team like Pittsburgh says, you know what? We got Skenes, we got Jones when he gets healthy again, we got Mitch Keller, we got some guys who are pitching right now. Let's go out and see if we can make a run at this thing. It would be nobody's idea of a surprise that San Diego goes out and does it. And same with Atlanta and Philadelphia. And I suppose Milwaukee could. And considering what they've done in deadlines past, any significant sort of addition would qualify as a splash. But I just think the National League is kind of – we're not at the point where we can say the teams that are in playoff spots right now are going to remain there. That is unlikely. But if you just look at those who are on the outside looking in right now, I'm sorry, I don't know that the Mets are a playoff team. I don't know that the Pirates or the Reds are a playoff team. I don't know that the Diamondbacks or the Giants are a playoff team at this point. And then you got the Cubs there too, and they've been leaning a little bit more towards selling than buying recently. So I just don't know that the National League trade market's going to be all that interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe the Braves taking a step back and where the injuries are with the Dodgers might open the door for some of those teams you just mentioned, right? If I'm one of those GMs, like, the behemoth and the Dodgers spending all that money.
Know, man.
They're going to get their guys back, but still.
If you look at let's do this. On October 1st, are the Dodgers and Braves going to be in the postseason?
Yes.
Exactly.
Do you read anything into the fact that Brian Cashman joined the Yankees for that series last night at the news conference and basically said, yeah, I'm here. Because of how we've been playing, I've decided to join us. And, of course, Hal Steinbrenner's there, but, the Steinbrenner family, they do spend a fair amount of time in Tampa. Do you read anything into that as a that might suggest that the Yankees may be really, I don't know, may be aggressive and may try to jump at something before the trade deadline?
You know what, Jeff? In addition to the Steinbrenner family spending a significant amount of time down in Tampa, let's look at the calendar right now. What's happening this Sunday?
The draft.
The draft.
Right. So
the idea that the Yankees are having draft meetings in Tampa is not far-fetched.
No.
So I don't know if Brian Cashman was scheduled to go down there or not, but I don't know that he went down there panicking specifically because the Yankees are playing so poorly right
It could also be a move to take a little bit of, I don't know if this works, but take a little bit of pressure off the team. Kind of like, because that's what that's the story. Brian Cashman's here, and that's a day where Aaron Boone doesn't have to answer why his rotation sucks so much, or, or things of that nature. Yeah.
And honestly, Brian Cashman's good at that.
Like, he is.
When it comes to accountability, like he'll sit there and he'll wear it. He will take bullets.
He absolutely will. Jeffrey, thanks for doing this, man.
Buddy.
Appreciate it.
Way to go.
Gentlemen, take care.
Take care. Thanks. That's Jeff Passan, ESPN's MLB insider. So he's got me changing my mind now because I was looking. I will put my hand up. Aaron Nola was a snub. So Aaron Nola, the only way he gets in there is if someone gets hurt and they go on. And the Mark Fidrich thing is, cannot argue with that. Cannot argue with that. That's a very good.
So you weren't going to listen to me. It took your buddy Jeff to come on.
It took my buddy Jeff and me do a little bit of reading, to do it. I just forgotten about Mark Fidrich.
And telling you that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
No, but your reasoning was just both.
It was not dumb. It was the best because you want the three best hitters facing that dynamite guy.
What if that's not the order?
Who's going to moon?
What if that's not the order?
Then the managers.
What if that's not the order?
It's like one of them.
What if that's not the order?
Effects.
What if that's not the order? Maybe they got khakis. Maybe the All-Star
Judge will
khakis.
be hitting fifth matchups.
Maybe the All-Stars. Maybe the All-Stars have khakis, and the khakis have got plans.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
That'd be interesting, hey?
Section of just khakis running the All-Star games.
You should actually be able to vote for your khakis. Vote for which team's analytics department goes to the All-Star.
Yeah. Well, then we'd have to know who they were and their names. We don't want to do that.
Anyhow. There you go. So Passan agreed with me about the Skenes thing, which was nice.
Yeah.
I hate it. He got me to change my mind.
Oh, really?
But I didn't feel like it. I was one of those things I just put out there. I wasn't.
Didn't you write an article?
No, I wrote a little blurb in the end of my article.
Oh, okay. So you didn't sit around for a whole weekend trying to come up with stats?
No. Give me a break.
74, this guy pitched against this guy, threw him this.
You
had no chance.
Do you think that I'm going to put a great deal of thought into who's starting the All-Star game?
Well, no,
not a chance in hell. No. Not a chance in hell. No. My life could not be that crappy that I would spend a whole bunch of time.
I just want to see Paul overthrowing and throwing that squirty thing he calls it.
The what?
Whatever that thing he calls his pitch, squirter. He's got a weird name for a different pitch he throws. If you'd pay attention, then maybe you wouldn't have this conversation with me because you'd know how good he is.
Well, what the hell? Why not? It is a game for the fans, and it'd be great fun, and Why not? Why not? Why not? Well, let's do it. Why not? That's true.
There is oohs and reasons why everybody else should tune in to watch the All-Star game, for sure.
People watch the All-Star game the same people are going to watch the All-Star game regardless of whether he's this is the thing, I don't think a lot of people are going to, quick, let's rearrange our schedule because Paul Skenes is going to pitch.
For the first inning, they absolutely would. If you're a baseball fan,
you're going to watch it.
You better.
Oh, nonsense.
Jeff would be the only person not watching and then calling me, what happened? I know how you are. Or texting me some emoji.
That's it for us. We'll be doing a radio-only post-game tomorrow. Then we'll be back Friday. And after that, it's the All-Star break. We'll be getting ready to watch Paul Skenes. Have a great day.